It's Tuesday, February 25th. Mars in Cancer is direct. Venus is in Aries, and it also happens to be Venus hour at the moment. We are also in the shadow of the Pisces New Moon. A lot of 8th house things are happening. In the last video, I was talking a lot about shadow altering, about power, about the inner child, and how that connects to your power as well as your creativity. And today, I specifically, and last time we were talking about transformation as well. What does it take to be in a space of transformation? I actually recorded that technically yesterday, and I don't even know that I was fully aware of the influence that I was under, because by the way, Mercury is also in Pisces at the moment. We're slowly approaching the Pisces new moon, but we're still under the Aquarius moon. Me being an Aquarius descendant, that being my higher self, but also playing a big part in how I can be detached in one-on-one relationships, how I can have a tendency to come off cold. Or at least I've been told that in different ways. Not directly though. The irony. The topic came up of kind of like inner child self-care and how do we become abundant? And what I've observed, especially in Pisces energy, that is boundless, that is usually forgiving, sometimes self-sacrificing, very compassionate and very empathetic. This is probably one of the most loving energies, and a lot of the time the most misunderstood because of how Pisces understands love. And we're under Pisces North Node for a good little while, so we're going to be learning the lessons collectively surrounding Pisces energy. And Pisces happens to fall in my 8th house. Saturn is there as well, and I've learned a lot around boundaries when it comes to merging with other people's energies and the energies of other things and beings and just energy overall. But the topic that came up for me reminded me of a time when I was having a conversation with a friend from a long time ago. And so this person, we're not close anymore. But I think about this conversation often because, often enough. Because it taught me and continues to teach me the importance of understanding the lesson you're learning as well as the lesson that you're teaching. So Aquarius energy, right? It's observing. It tends to be able to see things from a bird's eye view, from a top-down angle. And I've had a lot of friends, ironically, look to me for relationship advice. I think it's because for a very long time, I've been the friend with terrible boundaries that isn't very obvious unless you understand what you're looking at. And so I was always in a relationship, more or less. And even when I didn't technically want to be, and I didn't understand that until kind of now, until I turned 30, which is my age forever. I didn't quite understand that I was sacrificing myself for the sake of someone else's happiness by allowing myself to be in relationships with people I didn't necessarily want to be in a relationship with, even though I agreed after I felt like I was, in a few cases, more than I'd like to admit, kind of worn down into a yes or a fine kind of energy, you know? Hey man, everybody's struggles are different, right? I had someone ask me indirectly relationship advice, and they were basically complaining about the type of people that they were attracting. Now, mind you, this is like, oh my God, so many years ago, 8 to 10 years ago, I had someone ask me, you know, kind of what it is about them that they keep attracting the same kind of person that is obviously disrespecting them and to a certain degree virtually hating them. I feel like this is a conversation that I've seen being had online, especially surrounding women that were dating men that hate them or men that didn't like them. And for this particular person, the answer was it was clear to me to see this, and I don't feel like it was clear to only me, you know? Sometimes it's really easy to see with someone who's very empathetic. I'll say it like that. When someone is able to extend compassion to others and not themselves in such a deep way, sometimes it's very obvious that they do not value themselves. And a lot of times I would see this and it hurt me to watch, because I've believed that I valued this person and I wish they would value themselves. And so this is why I think back to this as a lesson somewhat often. And at the time, I was regurgitating that they needed to love themselves, right? They needed to exercise or practice self-love. And I remember them rejecting that advice. And I remember that it got to the point that they rejected that advice so viscerally that they started to project onto people who loved themselves as selfish. And that the whole message of self-love was selfish. And they did not understand why this was being preached and why this was being spoken and shared in such a way when it was so clearly a selfish message for anyone to be talking and speaking like that. And I feel like I understood where they were coming from. I feel like I related, but the stronger that the visceral reaction became, the more clear it was that this was a justification, because they were struggling with the idea of this message and the idea of self-love. And I don't regret anymore. But there were so many times where I thought back to that conversation and I really regretted not having the depth and the ability to really explain what it is that I'm able to explain now. And so when I meet people and I can tell that they hate themselves, the first thing I tell you is not to love yourself, because the hardest thing to do when you hate yourself is to love yourself. And what you'll see with people who hate themselves, because I've been in relationships with people who hate themselves and hated themselves strongly, is that they will not understand why you love them. And so they will either test your love or do their best to disprove your love. And I mean, how many relationships can survive off of some type of dynamic that looks like that, you know? So what my experience has taught me is that there are levels to self-love. And personally, I don't go around telling people to love themselves. Not anymore. I wouldn't even say that that's something that I've mastered. It's something I practice, but the way that I achieve self-love is through self-care. And that is how I prove to myself that I love myself, by taking time out to care for myself. So that is why I took a whole season, Cancer season last year, and also my birthday season last year, to purposefully and intentionally charge a crown around this, because I understood, especially as a Cancer sun with that 12th house Pisces energy, that caring for myself was not something that I'd seen enough to understand the value that pouring into myself causes to appreciate in me, causes to exponentially grow, so that everything I touch becomes more successful, including my relationships with others. I just want to note, I'm loving this Aquarius moon. This is a note to self. Record under Aquarius moon, because thoughts seem to be so clear. Higher self coming through. So, in order to love yourself, you need to care for yourself. In order to care for yourself, you need to be able to acknowledge yourself. In order to acknowledge yourself, you have to look at the parts that you refuse to look at. And those parts include your shadows. So, when I talk about shadow altering and what I've now discovered as a term of shadow play, when I talk about it, what I'm talking about is purposefully engaging with the part of you that you have suppressed. And more often than not, you will have suppressed this part, or you will have a part that is suppressed from the time you were young, from around 7 or 8 years old. Now, this is pretty common because around 7 years old is the time where you start to kind of like separate from your mother's aura and start to develop your own personality, your own individual personality, because you have watched behaviors be modeled in front of you consistently 7 years straight, and you've picked and choose and decided the ones that you will use in certain circumstances that you believe will help you. Sometimes children come in with a lot of experience. If you're anything like my partner, you are the oldest soul alive that is under the age of like 30 years old. Not every soul is like that. Usually those are Saturnian souls. that remember their wisdom, right? A lot of Capricorn energy, a lot of Saturn, maybe Aquarius, you know what I mean? Pisces energy too, but like depends on how that's balanced out, right? If it's Pisces energy balanced with a lot of Capricorn, you know, like going backwards. Pisces is 12, Aquarius is 11, Capricorn is 10. You get a little Sag in there, you got 9. Like those are the main ones you want to have. You go down to 8, you got Scorpio. That's a fun little mix. I promise you it is. It's a fun mix. However, anyway, that's not the point. That's not the point of today's video. For the rest of us that don't have that much Saturn energy, we're not necessarily going to remember our time on Earth. If we've been here before, we're not going to necessarily remember that we're supposed to hold on to our personality and that we know who we are and we're strong in who we are and that we would not be bullied or programmed or chastised or encouraged or discouraged out of who we are naturally. So for those of us that have had and can relate to those experiences, chances are there is a part of you that you have hidden way behind in the dark, in the shadow, that was led to believe that their presence is not helpful to you. And so they are repressed or suppressed. The difference between repression and suppression is kind of like the level, to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of people have repressed memories, and almost everybody has things that they're suppressing. When we're suppressed, it's like a suppressant, you know, the thing you take for coughing, you know, to stop your coughing, right? But repressing is something that happens on a deeper psychological level, that it's almost like there's a door inside the house that is within your inner world that no one touches. No one has touched for so long that there's a giant painting that is blocking the door. Any new person that walks into this house doesn't even know there's a door behind there. That is how much no one goes there. And if you imagine a house anywhere, and there are people who live like this, who have houses that are unique enough, I'll say it like that, where there's an entire room that no one touches for whatever the reason may be. There's an entire area in the house that no one goes in ever. And when was the last time someone went in there? Well, when you think about that internally, actually, continuing the analogy of it being a physical place, if there was someone that lived in there, kind of like a dungeon, kind of like those stories that you hear about, which were really brutal, kind of gruesome, kind of crazy, of people housing whole people in dungeons in their homes. Well, let's not even imagine that too hard. But it's kind of like that. There's a part of you that's still very much alive and is probably just like a human person that would be if they were trapped inside of someone's dungeon basement or room that no one touches, that's totally locked. And how is this person eating? How are they surviving? Are they literally in there starving to, like, you know, pieces, like bones? You know what I mean? Like, just think about that. And I know that that image is a bit visceral, and I don't know when you'll see this, what will be happening in the sky, but I know there's like heavy Pisces energy. It's probably gonna be like, oh God, that's a bit, that's how I feel when I see things on TV that I'm just like, this is a little too real for me. I feel it in my stomach. I feel it in my bone. You know, like I feel it. If you imagine that's a part of you that you're treating like that, and if you imagine there are multiple parts of you that you're either treating like that, which is like the repressed energies, or that you just lock in a room. And every now and again, they figure their way out, like they break the window and they jump out. And it's like a lot of the easiest energy that people suppress is anger. And so when you see that volcanic anger that just comes out of nowhere, and right now, like I said, Mars is in Cancer. And if anybody got a Mars in Cancer, you know what I'm talking about. You guys are the wall punchers. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You guys are the ones that are so pissed off. By the way, I do also want to note a similarity. Right now, Venus is in Aries, but if you have an Aries moon, you might be able to relate possibly very strongly with people who have a Mars in Cancer. It's an interesting dynamic. A Mars in Cancer with a Aries moon, those levels of anger and the levels of repression of anger, they're quite similar. And so anyway, the example was that that's a common thing for people to repress. Anger comes out though. It finds its way out. Not all the time, but if you got a Mars in Cancer, it'll find its way out. And so, if you have a Mars in Cancer, I'm talking to you because there are people I know that I love very dearly who have this placement, and whenever they give me the chance to remind them, I will remind them to take emotional care of themselves. Because when you are that type of water sign, and to be honest, I'll always say this about any water sign, but anyway, you know what I mean. And you push that down, it will fester, it will bubble, it's a volcano waiting to erupt. And the worst thing about that is for it to erupt at the wrong time on the wrong person. And what tends to happen, especially with a Mars in Cancer, because Cancer is mama, Cancer likes to be at home. And so there will be a lot of strife at home because Mars is a warrior, and the warriors belong on the battlefield. They don't belong at home with PTSD, fighting their loved ones, you know? And I know this is a very real situation that a lot of people have experienced. I'm talking about an analogy, but I'm just saying, if anybody is able to listen to me and just take emotional care, knowing you have your Mars in Cancer. I emphasize these parts so deeply because these parts don't deserve to be thrown away and mistreated the way that we mistreat them. And I say we because I do it. I was going to say I've done it, but I know I do it. I'm still playing with how to alter my own shadows because I'm still discovering some that I have actively suppressed. And so I'm creating things to assist myself. And that's why I love the energy of creation. And my fire moon is in a fire house, but it's in the 5th house where creation takes place. That's Leo. And Leo is childlike energy. So when you begin to alter your shadows, literally, when you first shine light on them, let them know that you are not exposing them to shame them, to harm them, to disown them and reject them further. Because how does that feel when you've been rejected? And now the same people who reject you are circling back to focus their attention and energy on you. You wonder what they're up to. You don't trust them because they just did what they did. You want to know what ill intentions do they have towards you, you know? And so you kind of have to warm yourself back up. You have to warm that part of you back up to your own energy and to trust you again. It takes time, you know? When you take the time to make time for yourself, for other parts of you, that is included in self-care. And, you know, you shine the light on that shadow, you bring them forward, they start coming into the light, you recognize them, you understand them, you know them, you can remember them. And then you can start to remember what it is they like. You can understand what it is they need. You can give that to them. And that becomes self-care. And as you're doing this to kind of build back your relationship with yourself, with parts of yourself, right? It's literally a relationship, right? You start to love this part of yourself. And as you start to love this part of yourself and understand this part of yourself and stop seeing this part of yourself as bad, as separate, as something other, you start to accept this part of yourself. And as you start to accept this part of yourself, you start to integrate this part of yourself because you understand, oh, like me, when the moon's in Gemini, self-care looks like. When the moon's in Cancer, self-care looks like. When the moon's in Virgo, self-care looks like. Because I'm subsequently moon ruled. And to all the Cancer risings, Leo suns with Cancer suns, if you got questions about it, leave it in the comments. I would love to encourage and start building community around this, because I want to call in my creators that are in the building, the creators that love to talk about astrology, so that we can come together and talk about all of the transits and how they're affecting us, and so that we can also hold ourselves accountable. Like, moon rule people are the easiest with this because the moon changes like every 2 to 3 days. So you check in with your moon rule friend, or your friend that loves astrology and likes to observe you, Aquarius descendant over here, who's just going to be like, you know, you're acting a certain kind of way, and they see you and they're like, okay, girl, you're spiraling, chill. Let's check what sign the moon is in. Okay, this is what's going on. Let's see. This is connected to that part in your chart, and maybe you need a little bit of da. Want to try that out? Let's see how that works. You know what I mean? But I feel that we can all benefit. I'm not just calling in the moon rule people, but I'm especially calling you in. Just saying. But yeah, the sun changes every season, right? You know, right now, it's 25th of February. We got like, what, 4 more days? Well, March is about to be here, and Aries season is about to be here. And so I feel like I made all my points, right? You want to look at your shadows, right? So that you can shine light on them. So first of all, you got to acknowledge you got shadows, because some people don't want to admit that. And I don't know, those people, I feel like they're not the right type of delusional, if you know what I mean. So first you got to admit you have shadows and be willing to look at them, right? Shine light on them. And after you shine light on them, you start to build relationship with them. As they're elevating, they're stepping out of the shadow, you can see what they look like, and you start to raise them up, right? You start to alter them, not to change them necessarily, but to elevate them, to raise them up, to help them help you to ascend. Raise your vibration. Start rising into your rising signs energy. Start ascending into the energy of your ascendant, right? So that you know just how you want to. I mean, I'm a Leo rising, so I'm here to take up space, but like, we're all here to do that in some type of way. And if you are here to take up space in a, I don't know, Pisces rising type of way, and you try to take up space in a Leo rising type of way, like, oh, that's inauthentic, that probably gonna feel and look a little itchy, right? Like, that's uncomfortable. Why she look like that? That's how I think about it. There's an angle and an aspect called the quincunx, and it's like, I think it's a 150-degree angle, and it's just like a very uncomfortable angle when these two planets, they just interact, and it's like, it gives itchy, like, it gives, why is she acting like that? That don't look right on her. She don't seem comfortable in her energy. Like, you tried to pull a Rihanna with that fit, but you're not owning it. It's owning you. Matter of fact, that look crazy on you, you know. I'm hearing myself right now. Like, I stepped out of myself a little quick second and I was like, who is this? Yeah, it's an Aquarius moon, y'all. So where were we? We admitted we have shadows. We shone light on them. We built relationship with them, right? And they started to be elevated, right? So I guess we can say, you know, alter them. That's a fourth step, right? And after you alter them, like, you start to accept them, which falls under integration, basically, which is self-care, which is self-love. When you start to get to that point and you integrate the parts of yourself and you start to understand, like, okay, I'm starting to feel wholer. I'm starting to feel more like myself. I'm starting to remember how I am. And as I'm remembering how I was and how I am naturally, what I call a Google search engine mind, because especially under either a Sag or Gemini moon, I will notice how my brain starts integrating all the information that I've been learning over the past month. And it's like, every time somebody says something, my brain is like searching in the search engine and it's like, bing, you know, bing, bing. So then I actually want to talk about it, because that's like, you know, under Gemini energy. And I'm like, sometimes it's hard to not, because sometimes I'm not really adding to the conversation per se. I'm just like airing out what details I got. So, you know, as I started to integrate that part of myself, I started to realize, okay, you know, you can relax with that. I could share relevant information and consider the big picture when I'm sharing things, and not just share things to share things. You know what I mean? So as you start to get familiar with these parts of yourself and integrate them, you start to feel whole again. You start to feel like yourself again. And you start to, you know, rise up into the energy that you came here to exemplify and to shine as. Yeah, I can say that. I'm sun ruled, so don't take it personally. But we all have sun signs, right? And we all shine in our own unique ways. And so that's the point. If you don't know how you shine and you see somebody shiny and you try to imitate their shine, you are not going to look the way you think you look. And you are going to feel exactly how you feel. And you're not going to like it. And you're not going to feel good about it. And this is something that physical styling, as a personal stylist, really showed me, because I would see people dress up. Actually, I would help them first dress up as different versions of themselves. And it was such an interesting, like, experiment to see people, because sometimes if they were actors or actresses, they could step into the energy, but they always had to step back out of it. And other times, if they were not, they could not. And so it was always like, a dance to tell people, you're telling me you can't pull that off. Because your body language is saying absolutely no. Some people could see it and some people did not want to admit it. So it was a very, interesting dance. But regardless of what that experience helped to emphasize to me, that the importance is starting here, inside, within. Because dressing up anyone, in a way that they don't feel aligned with and authentic about, it shows. It shows. And even if sometimes people can't put their finger on what it is about you that they're like, that face that what is it? Like, you dress so nice, you look so pretty, whatever, or handsome, or whatever, I'm really over the aesthetics right now. So I'm gonna come back to them, I promise, because it's in me, Right now, it's just like the importance. Are you showing up as yourself? Without people knowing that they realize that, they can tell when you're faking. Sometimes they don't know that they can tell that you're faking, but they know that there's something about you that's not right. And they can't put their finger on it. And they're like, what? I know, like right now, I can see you imagining the person that you feel that way towards. Now, imagine that there's moments and times where you show up like that. And people are like, why are you trying to pull a wool over on me? Like, why are you out here faking like you're something that you're not? Like, why are you doing that? It's so weird. That's so unnecessary. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about clothes. Although clothes are a very easy example, and that's how I saw it. But clothes are not even. They're like the tip of the iceberg. Like, clothes don't even matter once you start to get to the root and the bottom of yourself. And you start, like, for real, like, when you realize you're a vibe. Like, can I just say that? I'm telling y'all, when the moon is in Gemini, I be having a ball. And it's like, there's moments where I get a little self-conscious because I'm like, some people not gonna understand why I'm having such a good time with myself. But, like, I'm fun. And I'm like, yo, I sound some type of way. But I'm not lying. I sound some type of way, but I'm telling the whole truth. So, I almost forgot. I wanted to tell you, because it matches me. A little bit. I have something to show you. Hopefully it's showing up here by now. And so you're invited to create your rising sign birth chart mood board with me on April 4th at 3 p.m. as long as nothing else changes. It's virtual. It's online. I'm going to be showing you how I created my rising sign mood boards. And to be honest with you, I created my rising sign last. But we're going to start with the rising sign because the rising sign is the energy of Aries. And Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And it welcomes the spring season, which is starting the end of next month, which starts in 3 days. But that means we're weeks closer to actually having this wonderful playtime. Because I know people would normally call it a workshop, but you see what I'm doing here? Like, everything don't gotta be work, And like, listen. I love my Caps, all right? I love my Capricorn people. Like, I promise you, Capricorn season showed me a side of me that I could never appreciate any more than I do now. I love my Capricorn version. Like, Miranda Priestley and Myrtle Snow. Don't ask me why, but that's the energy. That's how they come through. That's how they present to me. And I love them because they help me get done. Okay? They play no games. Myrtle comes through with the magic. Miranda comes through with the shade. She's like, wait, let me get the glasses, guys. No, that's all. Oh my God. That part of me has embarrassed me in so many different ways where I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. I can't believe I did that. Oh my God, is that how I look to them? But when I tell you that part of me gets stuff done, I totally got distracted. Why did I start talking about Myrtle and Miranda? No idea. Maybe they helped me make the poster. I don't know. But April 4th, Sunday, 3 p.m., we are going to create. We're going to dive into our childlike energy on a Sunday. And, just really feel into the part of us that we are rising into. And I'm excited for you to come. What you'll see is that I have plans to do this for every season and for every house. So if you follow, if you tag along, subscribe, do all the good stuff so that you can stay up to date with the next sets. And also, if you're not, you should accept my invitation to my creators community, the Creators Circle. And a circle with a C, an O, and 2 L's because it's a collective of creators that are stepping into the energy that we can create the reality that we would like to experience. We are using astrology, and to be honest with you, if you understand and you want to talk about human design, I welcome that too. I just want people to understand themselves better. And what I've realized personally, and what I've seen for myself, which I love that I've been able to see this firsthand, that the people that I've shown and explained astrology to are starting to understand the people around them better with the perspective of this is what the energy of this sign looks like when it shows up in this way and such and such. And so when you understand yourself better, you can understand other people better and you can relate to people better. And so we have a better interaction with our humans and our beings and our brothers and sisters and all the yada yada yada, all the energies who share this earth with us. Because guess what? The earth does everything she can to take care of us. And I just think it would be really, really nice if we can pay her back by not fighting and sharing all her very abundant resources that she's so happy to provide to us. So I feel myself going on my, Aquarius tangent. So I'm gonna start to wean myself off of it. I just wanted to invite you to the rising sign birth chart mood board playtime. It's not a workshop, it's playtime. And to the community, the Creator Circle. And so you're welcome to accept my invitation. All the good stuff is below. Comment if you have questions, or just tell me you're gonna see me there. And yeah, thank you. See you next time. I love Aquarius energy. You guys are a vibe. Okay, bye.